Welcome back to the Embodied Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Rachael Meeds, and today we are diving into a really powerful conversation all about the nuances of feminine leadership and living a rich and relaxed life, which I am so pumped about. And today I'm joined by Christina. I fucking love Christina so much. We were in a mastermind together a couple of years ago, and she is known as the feminine business coach. She runs a global coaching company helping women to grow their business in alignment with their femininity. And she's known for her unique blend of combining hands-on business strategy with no bullshit energetic alignment. Her clients call her the Queen of Pleasure. As her way of doing business and coaching her clients is very much focused on feeling our absolute best while creating a big impact and beautiful big income through all of the work that she loves. So welcome to the show, Christina. I'm so happy to have you here.
God, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited.
I'm so stoked too. And, I feel like a really juicy place to start is, what do you feel like is like the most or some of the most misunderstood things about feminine leadership?
Oh my God. You're going right in. I love it. I love it. The most misunderstood thing. I guess the thing that comes to mind first is this whole conversation of like, it's just manifesting and orgasming our way to orgasmic abundance, financial abundance, and that it's really, just kind of like howling at the moon and waiting for the best. And it's so unfortunate because I feel like this way, so many women who would actually really resonate with it are kind of like holding themselves back from experiencing the beauty of actual feminine leadership because they're like, oh, that's bullshit, like that's not for me. And I would say it's really that, like that whole conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up because I think that for those of us who have been in the coaching world for a while now, I think there was a season a few years ago where like that was really a lot of what was kind of highlighted was this like, you're just laying in the bathtub making money and you're not really doing anything and you're just like, you're like masturbating your way to like financial success. And it's like, it kind of like didn't really give the full picture of like what was actually like what is actually going on that creates the success that people are generating. And of course those the bathtub moments and the orgasming moments, like of course those are a part of someone's reality, but like I really am curious to hear like how do you describe feminine leadership? Because I'm sure there's people that are listening that have like, I've heard that terminology and I actually don't really know like what this means.
Okay, so I want to start off with, I guess I would describe it in the way that I would change my definition probably every time somebody asks me, which is a very feminine thing to do. I feel like it's not like I have my one elevator pitch sentence of what that means. And I feel like a part of it is actually that, like coming to peace with our endless, I was going to say ovulation, but evolution. I would say feminine leadership is creating an alignment with your heart, your soul, your body, and really listening to whatever it is that you're receiving from those places without squeezing that into a box or already shaping it into some meaning, like we just talked about, basically. I feel like it's at its essence, it's co-creating with your heart, your soul, and your body.
Beautiful. I love that. It's so beautiful to like also allow there to be that like fluidity in the definition, because I think that every person has their unique relationship with their feminine too.
Yeah.
And so like it'd be hard to be like, this is the like very specific way that we describe feminine leadership, but like you're sharing, it's almost like a expression of the authenticity of our spirit, like our individual expression. And I feel as though where a lot of people, and even myself included, have like really maybe struggled with like embracing the feminine leadership piece is this, I think, misrepresentation around how when we're going into connecting with our feminine energy in business, I think that for some people, it can almost bring up this fear of like, well, how do I receive what I'm looking for in my feminine? Because sometimes I think there's this association. If you're in your feminine, you're not taking action. And then there's this
Mm-hmm.
mistrust in the feminine. And I'm really curious to hear you speak into that more, because I know even in my experience, having my default expression be more in that like masculine kind of doing energy, unlearning that and trusting the feminine is actually like has been such a fucking journey for me. And I would just love to hear, your take on all of that.
Yeah. So I do want to start off by saying, like, I am 100% a woman that was raised to be more in her masculine. But I don't know if you resonate with that. But like for me,
Yes.
it was really like, well, and hear me out, because it's like, for me, it was like when I first learned and heard about feminine energy and like really like connected more deeply with the term femininity as well, there was a part of me that was like, oh my God, I'm such a feminine woman at my core, like, and this doesn't go for everybody. That's the whole beauty of it, right? But like for me, I've always loved everything pink, sparkly, fun dresses, like exploring myself through style and like so many different things. And I was like, oh, like, how have I been masking this my whole fucking life? How has there been all these layers? But yeah, I just wanted to start off by saying, like, it's not like I was, let's say, one of these like super feminine women just naturally in their feminine. Like, in fact, when I was younger, I was always admiring these women and I was like, oh, they're like so mystical and they seem to be so at peace with everything. They have this radiance and all of that. And I was like, and why is that not me? And then I dive deeper into that whole topic, conversation, whatever you want to call it. I was like, oh, this is the difference. Um, Wait, what was your question? I already gave like 100 nuance.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Like, how, I guess so I can rephrase it a little bit. So, how does somebody embody their like feminine leadership while still being able to really, how does one take action and still have that masculine container that supports their feminine flow while like being more embodied in like the feminine leadership piece versus perhaps a way of doing business and leadership that maybe was really taught from a more masculine lens of like doing the thing, overriding your rest, like keep going, pedal to the metal kind of energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I would say the first step, as silly as it sounds, is to make peace with where we're at and make peace with, okay, maybe I have been raised in a more masculine way. Maybe I have been doing business in a more masculine way, but I feel like, and this is actually very feminine, like when we drop that judgment and we stop shaming ourselves in a way for who we've been, how we've been, and maybe also like tendencies we still have, like this is already like, deep exhale, deep breath, like I'm okay, and I feel like this is actually, it's just an example, but that's exactly what I feel like is the work in a big way. It's like, I so often just tell my clients, okay, like, let's take one deep breath, feel into your body and tell me again, because I feel like it's just a lot of times, like we go first, a lot of us women in today's world, like we will first go into our head. We will come with our programming, right? And for me, it's like, it is just checking in with our bodies feeling how we're feeling and allowing ourselves to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Because my experiences with myself and with my clients, it's like when you ask somebody how they feel, in 99% of the cases, they will tell you what they think. Or they will tell you what they think they feel, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really like, okay, deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, what is beneath that? And what is beneath that? And what is beneath that? And to me, it almost feels like when we want to do business and life, like from this more feminine place, it's really like stripping away all these layers of thinking who we think we should be, what we think we should do, like all of this thinking, just we can let it be there. It's okay, you know. But then, okay, but how do I feel? And from my heart, like I feel like if we go deeper and deeper with each layer to the feeling, it's like what is left? Like there's only our heart, there's only our soul. And it's like from that place, once I'm there, what do I desire to do? And it's also this big thing of like, and in this place, like, what do I know to be true? And this is where for like a lot of like the business magic and maybe where some of that like unpopular bathtub orgasmic manifestation stuff comes from, where it's like, well, at the core for me, it's all about relaxing yourself and then allowing yourself to honor your truths and honoring truths that you might not have a logical explanation for. And then it's like, okay, so here are all these people thinking or saying like, this is how to do business. You have to do this, 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 and this. And it's like, okay, but if I strip away everything and it's just me and my heart, it's just me and my soul, what do I know to be true?
That's so powerful. And really what I'm like hearing and what you're sharing is it's kind of like getting really embodied in our connection to our intuition and our creative magic, while pairing that with like intimately working with our nervous system to like regulate ourselves so that we can drop out of the mind and into the body. And then there's this essence of, it's not that being in our feminine leadership is void of action, but rather that the action that we're taking is actually coming from our authenticity. It's actually coming from that embodied place. And there's almost like this energy of, like feminine devotion or feminine discipline, where it's like, if we were to just look at like the word devotion or discipline, both of those words actually can feel like quite masculine because they're very much like a doing word. But then if you were to pair it with like feminine devotion or feminine discipline, you're actually like marrying these two energies, it sounds like. And so it's not like, oh yeah, you can't sit in the bathtub and make money, or you can't have an orgasm to manifest. It's actually like, no, those are a part of the pie, but I'm also like doing these other things to move the needle forward in my business. And I'm not just like wishing and hoping and praying that things work out. There's still action, there's still momentum. And for you, Christina, like, do you have like a process that like really has supported you in being able to like attune to that inner landscape of like creativity and intuition to support you in like taking the action that's necessary to create the success that you've created?
For sure. I mean, it's not like I sat down and I was like, this is my process. And like, I like to keep things really fucking simple. So it's like, again, this is one thing I feel like we're taught in like more masculine, quote unquote, business. It's like, you have to build your own framework and you have to do this and that. And I too have told myself that story for the longest time. But I was like, but I feel like my zone of genius is making things really, really simple. And so for me, my number one thing, breathing. And I know you resonate with this as well, but it's like, but it's like what I said, like for me, one of the biggest shifts is allowing myself to take one really fucking deep breath whenever I feel like I need to. And it's like, I mean, it's truly like I've seen so much magic happen with myself and my clients where it's like I was describing, like, okay, let's take one deep breath, really like into the belly, expand, relax,
Mm.
what feels true now. And I feel like this is one of my most powerful tools. But aside from that, I personally do a lot of that through music as well. Like I come from a very like music driven, music studied family. And I don't know, for me, there's something about putting headphones in, listening to specific songs. It's not like that there's like this magical feminine song or so, but it's more like, yeah, songs clearly have vibrations, and there's lyrics and there's all these artful things in itself, obviously in a song. And it's like, I feel like this may sound crazy. And again, this is what I feel like what people talk about and send their shit on a little bit. But it's like, I would say a good bunch of my business has been built on me laying somewhere in the sun with headphones in and listening to really powerful music that for me creates a lot of visuals, creates a lot of feelings, and it inspires me in a nutshell. And I feel like this is what I wanted to add actually to what we just previously spoke about, because I feel like it ties in here nicely as well. It's like, and it gets me to a place where I cannot not act. I cannot not do. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is the beauty and the purity of this work, because it's like, if you're really like relaxed, if you're really attuned to yourself and to your heart, there's no fucking way you're not going to take action, because you're receiving visions, you're seeing yourself in certain situations, maybe like whatever comes up for each person, right? But it's like, at that point, you don't really have limiting beliefs or anything like that, because you just feel so connected and you're so in your truth. And it's like, you want to do, you cannot not do, and the doing becomes a lot easier.
Yes. Oh, I fucking like love that so much, because it's like essentially what you're tapping into in this is this invitation of, okay, when you create opportunity to get inspired, because it's like we're responsible for our inspiration, right? And so it's like that what one person would view as like not doing something, which is like laying in the sun listening to music, that's actually you creating such a beautiful capacity within your nervous system to be in your your social engagement system, from like a polyvagal theory, where you're actually in that like delicious open energy to receive. And then from that place, it's like naturally you're going to be so inspired and so tapped into like your creative juices that the action, like you're saying, and it actually just becomes a natural next step, because you're not
Yeah.
sitting at your desk being like, oh, I have to do this thing and I need to like come up with this idea, and you're all stressed out and you're not even really in the part of your body or your mind that is able to make like really aligned decisions, because you're
True.
activated and stressed. And like what you're saying is like really landing with me, because I think that it's such a gift to repattern this idea that taking space to relax and rest is somehow not productive. And it's really like flipping it on its head and being like, no, this is
Yes.
actually so productive, especially when there's that discernment between true relaxation and rest, which is like
Yes.
where we get to like open up our channel to creativity, versus I'm avoiding something and I'm procrastinating and I'm actually being a little bit of a lazy bitch right now.
Yes. Very important. Very important. Yeah.
Yeah. And like for you, was there, when you kind of started to come out of the programming of like the masculine kind of way, which I feel like so many of us have been conditioned to like live in our masculine energy. I feel like that is such a common thread that I've heard from so many women, clients, girlfriends, like all the things. And I'm curious for you, like when you started to really embrace your feminine energy, like did you notice any kind of like feelings of like unsafety or uncertainty in like learning how to like actually like lean into this other way? Like was there any like clear kind of yeah, transitional energy that you experience. Because I imagine for some people, there's like a level of like, this feels unsafe to do it this other way.
Mm, I would say yes and no. So I would say, I mean, life kind of just led me there. Like it was a very interesting unraveling in my life. And I would say like my beginnings of just like learning that all of this exists and la di da di da, like it was really fun. It felt like kind of like what I was describing. It felt like, ooh, there's like a home I can get to, you know? And I think like in a way, my masculine was really helpful in that because I was like, ooh, there's like this new thing and I can obsess about it and like, you know, so,
Yeah.
but it was like, I think it's a beautiful way to honor that too, right? Because it was like, oh, I can like dive all the way deep in, obsess about it, learn everything about it, like all these things. And then for me, I guess there was like a beauty of having no fucking idea what I just stumbled upon. And so I started with like such simple, superficial, and yet powerful things that I feel like the beginning was just exciting. Like I was just like, I'm talking about like, oh, like if I allow myself to dress however I like and I don't have to be a cool girl, what do I want to wear? You know, and then I remember this woman that's been very profound in my journey with all of this. She was saying like, you know, go out and like buy yourself like a nice hair piece or something like that. And I literally like, I don't know if you have Claire's, that shop in
Yes,
Canada.
yes.
Okay. So like I was like, okay, I'm gonna like go to this kind of shop. I haven't gone in like forever since I was a teenager. I was like, let's see if they have any colorful, fun things that speak to me, you know? But it was like, it all had this playful, feminine, like, let me just explore this whole feminine energy, feminine embodiment type of thing. And so that made it really easy. I would say it was more like as time went on, like, oh, you know, like there's also some deeper shit related to this. And I would still say, like, and I really want to bring this across too, because I feel like, again, there's a place where a lot of women on their journey judge themselves, and judging ourselves is like the worst enemy, I feel like, of doing this work. So it's like, to this day, I sometimes, of course, have moments when I'm like, fuck, like I'm really trying to control this situation here, or like where my boyfriend is like, what the fuck are you doing right now? You know? And so, yeah, I really want to emphasize that because I feel like it's a part of the journey, and I'm still very much so in my own embodiment journey as well. But yeah, I would say the beginning, and I can recommend that, to be honest, like just make it fun, make it playful, make it like this explorative journey for yourself. And then the shit will come up. But it's like, I feel like coming from this more playful energy, it makes it a lot easier to also then look at the harder things, quote unquote, that come up, where you do realize like, oh my God, like this does not feel so safe to just let go, you know, and like all these things. But again, I think it's also about the nuances and allowing ourselves to be in the nuances of it, right? Because like we cannot expect ourselves after a lifetime of functioning in the ways we have to just be like, yeah, just let go, you know, and surrender. But I think, like, to me at least, there was a part in me, as I was saying, that really resonated with everything I was hearing and feeling. And I think that made it a lot easier for me to just keep on going and also give things not so much meaning, because I was like, okay, like I'm onto something here. Like this is important. I need to be in it. Like, and not need in this pressury way, which is like, ooh, like, you know, this is where we're going and I'm here for it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really feel, yeah, like that piece around playfulness, I think is really powerful because I think that when we become aware of like certain patterns or behaviors that we have, it can be really easy to default into seriousness and feel like, oh my God, I have to change everything and this is going to be so hard and it's a big
Yeah.
mountain to climb. And then like there's almost like there can be a fixation on trying to solve the problem. And it's like, I feel though as though the invitation that you're sharing around playfulness is really beautiful, where it can really like start off small. It's like, okay, so what does it look like for me to create, you know, a 5 to 10 minute practice a day where I just breathe? What does it look like to, like you did, like think about, like, if I just didn't give a fuck about what anybody thought, what would I wear today? And then maybe that looks like just buying like one new piece of clothing, or article of clothing that like helps you dress your avatar in a way that like is the embodiment of this next identity. And that's something I've always really admired about you, is I feel like you are really embodied in your artistry within like not just your like within your like full spectrum of expression, like both in business, leadership, and just who you are as a being. And I just think that it's a really big permission slip for people to start to know that they get to choose. And I think that that's something I really feel from your work and really feel from what you share in the world, is that you're not stuck, and you get to decide, and you get to
Yes.
live a really beautiful life. And I know that, and like I resonate so much with this terminology because I've used this myself, and I'd love to hear more about like what does actually like deciding and like choosing to live a rich and relaxed life like mean to you, because you're definitely doing it.
What does it mean to me? Full heart, full bank account, as I often say.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like at the core, it's like doing what feels right with no fucks given. And it's like, again, like, of course I give fucks. Like, I think everybody gives fucks, but you know what I mean? It's like this is what feels good to me, so I'm going to pursue it. I think if I have to break it down really simply, it's like, it's that. Because for me, also the rich part, right? It's like, in a way we're talking, or in my world, it's always also about the inner richness, the inner wealth, and the inner wealth creates the outer wealth. And so it's like, it all starts with the heart, as cheesy as it sounds, but it's like, okay, what do I desire? Can I trust that the desire is meant for me, is guiding me? Let me pursue it. And then I become rich and relaxed, because I'm not working against myself. I'm not working against my desires. I'm working with them. And it takes away a lot of the friction that I feel like normally we tend to experience in life.
Yes, absolutely. And it feels so in alignment with, you know, my, like when I use that phrase, rich and relaxed, it's always like rich in love, rich in friendship, rich in experiences,
everything,
rich
yeah.
in everything. It's like literally like creating wealth embodied from the inside out. And then that relaxed piece, like we've been talking about, is like having like a relationship with your nervous system and your heart, and being able to soften and trust and regulate yourself. And you know, I feel like for a lot of people, they have this association with like, and I don't know if you have heard some of your clients share a similar perspective, but I think there's a lot of programming around, well, if it's not hard, then I'm not like it's like I'm not doing a good enough job. Or if it's not hard, then like something's wrong. And I think that for those people that are listening, like what would you say to the person that has that pattern that's like, oh, like it has to be hard because that's all I know?
I would say decide. Like, you just have to. I would say, okay, if I give like a little bit more nuance, it's maybe like finding the spot in your body. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, it's in my fingertip, you know? It's like more like, can I find a space in my body where something else feels true, or where I know something else to be true? And then it's like, okay, I found that. I believe we can all find that. I choose to find that. And then I decide that it gets to be a different way for me. Like, I really feel like a lot of my clients also say like, but how do I decide? I'm like, you just decide. Like, and at some point you will know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's like, you just choose the thought You just choose the idea of it can be easy. And maybe you can find some evidence, maybe in your own life, maybe not in your own life, then find it in other people's lives. But it's like, okay, it is actually possible. And why wouldn't I choose that? Like for me, this whole conversation is always like, I mean, I get it. I really do. And at the same time, it's like, but why would we put any energy into believing and holding on to the idea that it's hard? Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Totally, dude. And it's like, I think that that can be such a kind of mind fuck for people because it actually asks, right, that we take radical responsibility of our healing, our liberation, our pleasure, because even though it's way more uncomfortable, it can be like in quotations easier to just choose the hard path because that's what feels familiar. And so I think for a lot of people listening, there is this invitation of understanding that you are going to be rubbing up against your patterns and your behaviors and your habits. And that actually is going to take effort and devotion to shift.
Yeah.
But like the decision piece, I think, is so important because even like, not deciding is still a decision. So if if you're choosing the thing that you don't want, like it's like the people that complain about the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then you're like, but what are you doing about it? And then they have like a laundry list of excuses as to why they're not changing. And you're like, but you're choosing that, you're really choosing that. And I think the piece of this is like, it may not feel easy at first, but you can create ease. And I think that that's like a discernment for people is not everything's going to feel easy, but through, all the beautiful things that you're sharing, it's like you can create the energy of ease in your life and start to train your body, your mind to choose a path that is more easeful. And, I feel like one of the things that I'd love to like ask you about too, because I know that you and I have had the beautiful conversations over the years. And, I'm curious for you, like, what is like one of, or like some of the biggest lessons that like you've learned in your business? And like, how did you really choose to be brave in the pursuit of like choosing that rich and relaxed path versus the hard path?
So I would say the first thing that keeps coming up and that, I feel like is a big part here is like I'm a line 2 in human design and I tend to not see my own genius. And I would still say like it's still one of my biggest weak spots, if we want to call it that. And so I will say, I feel like a lot of my journey, like I love how you're leading this conversation because I feel like for me, I often cannot tell you like, oh, this is the thing that I did, which might sound crazy being a business coach and mentor, but it's like people just ask me questions, I give answers, they might ask questions back and I give another answer, but it's like, I feel like I just always did things. And I never felt like I had to be brave, even though I was brave. But I feel like this is maybe a bit of a natural gift that I have. Like I'm so in it just doesn't make sense not to pursue something that I desire, right? And so I think I get a lot of bravery in a sense out of that because I'm just like, how could I not do that? And I would say at the same time, this is maybe one of the biggest lessons for me in business. It is about just fucking doing it, to quote Nike. It's like, you just do it. And I feel like it's really one of my biggest takeaways within that is like, we have to allow ourselves to play, to try things out, and to really be an artist in business. Because again, what else are we going to do? It's like we are here to explore ourselves, to express ourselves. And we can only do that if we do things, if we try things, if we're like, oh, that sounds fun, so I'm going to do it. And I think within that, you have to be okay to fall on your face sometimes. And again, it's like, we can then choose to believe it's hard. Like, oh, I fell on my face. Like this thing didn't work. Maybe this thing didn't sell as well as I thought it would or wanted to or whatever, but it's like, can I still see that as a success? And I think I've always been pretty naturally good at that. And at the same time, I feel like I've learned over the years, like, this is like a thing I should continue doing, to like just without bypassing anything or any feelings, but it's like seeing everything as growth and success, because that's what it is. Did I answer that
Absolutely.
question? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And I feel, I feel really resonant with a lot of the things that you're sharing, because if I even look at my life, there's been just like, I just go for the thing that I want to do. And like, yeah, there's definitely been heaps of fucking fear. I've had imposter syndrome in many seasons. I've definitely been like, oh my God, what happens if I fuck this up? Like all of those human pieces have
Yeah.
certainly been alive for me. But like you're saying, there's always been this like, but I'm gonna fucking do the thing that I know I'm here to do. Like there's never
Yeah.
been, like I've said it in the past too, even though I've had seasons of my business that have really challenged me
Of
over the
course. Yeah.
years, I've never once been like, oh, I'm gonna give up. Like that's literally like that literally has never
Right.
ever crossed my mind. Like
Yeah.
I've never been like, I should just give up. Like, and I think that that's really, if you look at the through line in all successful people that really create like long-term, like their whole kind of full spectrum of their life is like their body of work and they've been doing the thing. I think one of the through lines is like you said, you just do the fucking thing, and you also become really comfortable with failing. It's like
Yeah.
you are going to fail, and when I say fail, it's not even failure because you're literally just learning lessons. It's just
Yes.
feedback. And so if we can like really alchemize the like discomfort that comes with not getting exactly what we want right away. Like I've had launches where things have gone amazing and I'm like, wow, I just blew my mind. And I've had launches where like no one signed up and I'm like, okay, cool, great feedback. I probably can like learn from this and it's still successful
Yeah.
because look at all the people I reached. Look at the visibility that came from it. And yeah, I really love, like for you, I guess one of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on a bit in that too is like, what do you normally, like, how do you normally talk to yourself, like, when something doesn't go, like, the way that you think it's going to? Like, how do you typically, like, kind of perk yourself back up to keep going?
So at first, I allow myself to feel the feelings, obviously. And then I feel like there's a point where I feel kind of done with the feeling. Like, not in the sense always that I'm like, oh, I don't feel sad anymore. Like, I'll still be annoyed, sad, whatever I'm feeling. Maybe still judging myself because I think, oh, I should have done this better or that better. But I feel like there comes always a bit of a point of like, okay, and now what? you know?
Yeah.
And then one big piece is like, I was just thinking about it this morning, like strolling over the beach where I feel like being around the ocean for me is always like, it's like just me and God, just me and the universe, And it's like one sentence that came up for me and that I feel like it's been really like a guardian angel in a way, like on my journey. It's like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And then I was just sharing that in one of my rooms in Rich and Relax. It's actually called Rich and Relax. I was sharing that, I believe, yesterday, that like another sentence that came through for me by the ocean, spending a lot of time by the ocean. It was
Love
like,
it.
you've got nothing to worry about. Because, right, like in those moments when we're feeling all these big feelings, what's actually happening? We are worrying about something. And I think most times when we break it down, like to the core, we're afraid to like not have food and shelter and things like that. Like we're afraid not to survive. And it's like, okay, I've got nothing to worry about. Like God's got me, the universe got me, I got me, like, I'm fine, And it's like, again, we do that in my world after feeling it, because otherwise we might just be like fully bypassing things.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like, all is good. So if all is good, which helps me relax a little bit in that moment, then what do I want from here? Like, what can I choose from here? And for me, it's not always the most powerful, boom, now I got this big impulse kind of moment, but it's like a step, you know? And then
Yes.
from that step, after that step comes a next step and a next step and a next step. And
Yes.
yeah, I feel like the focus, if I like wrap it up somehow, like the focus in my self-talk, and I will say I'm a human, I'll fail in it sometimes, but as a whole, it's like forgiving myself and coming to a place of acceptance of where I'm at and a place of being at peace with myself and where I'm at.
That's so beautiful. And I really feel like so connected to that piece around, okay, we feel the feeling and we like really give ourselves some love and compassion because we're very human. But then after that, there's this like, okay, I'm going to breathe and I'm going to choose how I'm going to go from here. And I think that that is like the piece that you're sharing around really connecting into God, really connecting into the universe, like whatever word resonates for people, and really trusting that like there is something so loving and so powerful that has your back, and tapping into that is like, for me, that honestly almost like immediately creates a softening, because it's like
Yes.
I'm giving this divine energy permission to really hold me. And much like you were talking about in the other part of our conversation around this piece of just like giving yourself the spaciousness to feel into your intuition and to get inspired. And one of the best fucking ways to do that is to get the fuck out of our house, off of our
Yes.
phone, and into nature, whether that's the ocean or the forest or your backyard, like getting your
Yeah.
fucking feet on the earth and feeling the expansiveness of the earth. I feel like that almost always just like brings me right back into what I know is true. Because the thing that you said that I think is so beautiful as well is like when we have a challenging experience or we perceive that we've failed in some way, we kind of go into this like survival mechanism of like worst case scenario and catastrophizing, even though in the present moment we're actually everything all is
We are
well.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we are good. And I think that that is such a practice of awareness, as like really learning to teach our nervous system and to teach our mind to be here now, and to just be
Mm.
like, right now, I am safe. I am good. There's nothing bad happening, unless obviously you're actually in danger, in which case, like, that's a whole other can of worms. But most, like, I would say, like 98% of the time when we're feeling these things, like, nothing actually is going to hurt us in that moment. And
Yeah.
do you have, when you're connecting to God, do you have like any particular, like, do you like say a prayer, or like do you just kind of let things flow naturally? Like, how do you typically like open your channel to that energy?
Dear God.
Yes.
I would say it's so like, I'll just say in my head, in my heart, like, I'm dear God, like this is the situation. You know, here I am, like, can we have a chat kind of thing? Like, it's really, I try to just go with the moment, and like it's really helped me not to put any pressure on myself of that it needs to look or feel a certain way. Like, I've tried in the past to be like, am I feeling him yet? Am I hearing him yet? That type of thing, you know? And it's just like, I'm here, like, I'm just going to share my heart for a little moment. And then there's always something coming back. But when I was like in this almost like anticipating energy of like, no, there must be something happening, or of like, I find if I make it too complex, then there's going to be expectation, and expectation tends to ruin the conversation for me, I would say.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like I almost have like these two kind of different ways of connecting with God and my guides. So I have like prayer, and I feel like prayer changes us. Prayer moves us, right? It's less like us like asking for like to try to like like the prayer to change something. It's more like we say a prayer, and like that spirit changes us in some way. And it's like, for me, I have this process where one of the easiest ways that I access support in the moments where I'm feeling really challenged or just need to feel held is I just like literally simply say, God, please help me return to love. And it's
I
just
love
like
that.
that prayer like starts to shift something in me. It's like the prayer moves me, the prayer changes me to be able to see things from a different perspective or be embodied in a different frequency. And then I have like a different process where it's like, okay, like I will literally be like, okay, God and my like benevolent guides, ancestors, spirits of the highest vibrational frequency of Christ light. And then I'll kind of like put in like, hey, like this is what I'd love your support with. Can you
Hmm.
help like clear obstacles for me to more easily receive this thing or take this action? And that almost for me is like more of like a manifestation
Hmm.
process. It's kind of like, okay, I'm kind of like putting it in order with the divine. Whereas this other piece is more like, God, like let love just change the fuck out of who I'm being right now. And it's
Hmm.
just simple and I just sit with it and I breathe and it's like all of a sudden it's just like I'm coming back to center.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I feel like it's such a like, I mean, it's funny, right? Like how we always come back to just breathing and like the most simple things. And I feel like this is why I believe in like ritual acts so much. This is why I believe in being relaxed first,
Mm.
always so much, because everything comes from that. And I would say like, I mean, the longer we practice our rituals or things are like changing our mind over time and like all these things, it's like the more relaxed we are, obviously at a baseline, and the easier it becomes also in like more turbulent moments to access our tools, to access
Mm.
this little deep breath, right? Because like sometimes we're just in panic mode and we're like, fuck, 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 fuck. And it's like, oh, deep breath, you know? And yeah,
Yes.
I just love how like simple it gets to be. And yeah, I think the more we're having conversations with God, with the divine, like as you were saying, like whatever each of us wants to call it, the more we also just expect good things. We expect
Mm.
miracles. And I feel like we just spoke about it as well. Like I feel like this is also actually a thing for me that I can really like rely on at this point
Mm.
in my life and business. It's like when I'm in a period, in a moment of struggle, or what I perceive to be struggle in that moment, it's like, okay, I can still expect miracles. Like I am still expecting miracles, you know? It's like for me,
Mm.
like I'm currently going through a bit of a tougher situation that's asking me to be in my rituals and in my routines a lot. And it's like, I really realized there was like a pattern, like of like, okay, but I gotta solve this now. I gotta solve this now. Like it has to be done. But then I was like, exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm expecting miracles. Like,
Mm.
like all is good. And I feel like I can definitely observe over the years that this has become a more natural process. That like I will just be taking myself through. I will just be
Mm.
saying those things to myself. I will just be doing the things, which is often why I can't see that I'm doing the things, because it's just like, oh yeah, it's actually true. Like also what you said, like I'll just be going outside. I'll be like looking at a plant and just admiring the plant, like just to calm myself down, to get back to love, to get myself grounded. And yeah, I just, bottom line, I just love how simple it gets to be.
Yes. So, like simplicity is success and like
Mm,
complexity is like typically where, quote unquote failure lies. And, when I was listening to you speak, there were like a few things that were coming to mind. And like one of the things that one of my teachers, one of my breathwork teachers taught me is, and I don't know where this quote originally comes from, but it's like breath is our direct connection to spirit. And so when we
mm,
consciously breathe, we're consciously connecting not only to our spirit, which also is a part of everything, but we're also connecting into God or the universe. And then from that place of really cultivating this embodied awareness and this practice of tuning into our breath and connecting into ourselves, it's like our whole life really becomes this like living, breathing, moving prayer where, like you're saying, you just expect miracles because you're connected to your spirit, you're connected to your body, you're connected to who you are, and that becomes a part of your identity. Like the identity based belief is then everything is always working out best case scenario.
Yeah.
I am always taken care of, but that's a practice, and it's a really intentional practice that we do outside of the turbulent moment so that when the turbulence arrives, we actually know how to be resourced. And that's one of the reasons why, like, at the start of every single coaching call that I ever facilitate, we do a somatic drop-in. And my clients may not realize this initially when they start working with me, but it's very intentional why I do that, because I'm actually teaching them that whatever happened before this moment and whatever is happening after doesn't matter, because right now you're connecting with your body and your breath. And that inevitably, over the course of the months or the years we work together, that actually just becomes a part of their life. They just now know that they have access to that if they didn't already do it. And I just think that this whole conversation, I mean, it's been so fucking inspiring for me. I was telling Christina before we hopped on our call that I'm just in a season of like really connecting more into my feminine and really being invited into allowing things to be more easeful. And I feel like this whole conversation has just been like so exhilarating within my sacral. I'm just like, I feel fulfilled.
Same.
Yeah. And like one thing I always ask everyone that comes on the show is, what does being an embodied leader mean to you?
Truly doing whatever the fuck your heart is calling you to do unapologetically and truly. I would say like the truly part is really important in the sense that like I feel like leadership, embodied leadership, feminine leadership, these are all words that are being thrown around. And maybe it's a bit of an unpopular opinion, but like for me, I'm like, and so many people speak about leadership and they're just copying everything everybody says about leadership, which in itself to me is a bit ridiculous because I'm missing the leadership in that, you know? And so, yeah, for me, it's really like really daring to go first and kind of tied into what I shared before, like really being willing to fail and not just playing the safe, going the safe route. It can be leadership to go the safe route, but usually it's not, I would say. But yeah, to just also go away from that, I would say like it is what comes from within us, and actually doing that and trusting that, even if it's uncomfortable, even when you just cannot wrap your mind around how this is going to ever make sense, to still dare to do it because it's who you decided to be in this lifetime.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I love that so much. So good. Yes, fuck yes. And I just am so pumped for people to continue to connect with your work. And I'll make sure that I have all of your details, your links, all the things in the show notes, but you can feel free to tell people where they can find you as well.
I mean, Instagram is always the easiest place, I would say. I'm an Insta bitch. Like it's just always been my platform. And you can find me under at the Feminine Business Coach. And I guess just go from there and hop over, like say hi. I just really like, I'm a line 2 and I'm a line 4 in human design. If you're listening, like, you know what I'm talking about. And it's like, I love people and I love to connect with people. And I have like a social media background too. So I'm like, I love to be social through social media. I found so many friends through social media. Obviously, I've had the most amazing clients that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for social media. And for me, it's really like, you make my day if you come say a hi and share what you've taken from this episode or whatever. Like, don't be a ghost. I mean, do if that feels good for you. But like, I get really genuinely excited to also just hear from people. And yeah.
Beautiful.
Pop into my DMs.
Yeah.
Not like a creep, but I'm sure that's not your listeners. But we all know the guys that are like,
yes.
Can I offer you a $5,000 allowance? And you're just like, yes, no.
Yes, but I won't do anything.
Yes, if you never speak to me again.
Yes. Oh, well, I'm so grateful for you. And thank you to so many of you for listening. Definitely reach out, let us know how you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you soon.
Bye.